What's going on everyone, welcome back to another video. Today on the Civic Coupe budget build we're going to be renewing the clutch because it's needed it for a very long time. Since I've owned the car the clutch pedal's been very high and it's been that bad that I haven't even been able to, since I've owned the car, do a racing start, a quick foot off the clutch, tyre screeching start. I haven't been able to bang it from first to second and get the tyres squealing as you should be able to in a Honda, so that's what we're going to fix today. This video is not going to be like a feature sort of film or anything like that. It's going to be very much to the point and what we're doing throughout the day, just as a bit of an update on the Civic Coupe build, and we do have a few little modifications to go along with the new clutch. I'll show you those now. So this is everything that we have. We've got a new clutch in there, as mentioned, standard ZD clutch. We also have a lightweight flywheel, new clutch release bearing, manual transmission fluid from Honda, a short shifter, which I got very cheap, a new set of bushes, so poly bushes for the shifter linkage, a Speed Factory Detent spring uprate kit, so that will make the gears more notchy, and also a new set of torque mounts, so it sort of stops the engine from twisting. They're poly bushed, should make the engine a lot stiffer, a lot better during gear changes, and there should be less power lost through torsion created by the engine. So that's the plan. If you're a Honda owner and you've worked on your own car, you probably know what that is. It's known as the dreaded bitch pin. But yeah, we've got the linkage out. My dad managed to get a good swing on it and knock it out. What a nightmare. So this is the progress up top so far. My dad's done everything up top. Got the starter motor off, obviously the air intake's off. A few, like bits of pipe and stuff like that, as well as the slave cylinder, clutch slave. But yeah, so that's the majority of it up here, and then at the bottom, lower ball joints off, drive shafts out. Gearbox has obviously been drained, as you saw. I just need to pull the drive shaft out on the other side. The gear linkage, as you've previously seen, is off, so now it's that drive shaft off, and then bell housing bolts, and hopefully the box out. So we've just touched the halfway point basically, or more or less. And the box is out and in front of me. Now, as you can see on the car, we've got a little bottle jack just holding up the engine. We've obviously supported the sump with a piece of wood there, as you can see. That's the old pressure plate and the old clutch in there. And yeah, it's not looking too bad. And here is the little gearbox. I do like how light they are. Makes it a lot easier when working on a drive. But yeah, so this is a little update for the halfway mark. So we've undone the torque mounts that would have been on the chassis legs there, obviously all the bell housing bolts, the rear engine mount and bracket, pulled the shafts out completely away from the gearbox on both sides, including the intermediate shaft that bolts onto the back of the block, and yeah, got the box out. One thing worth mentioning is that it was seized on the dowels, so we were thinking that it was held on somewhere with another bolt, but we couldn't see the bolt, and it wasn't, it was just the dowels. So that one's, as you can see, quite a lot of oxidisation on it. This one over here as well, so we'll need to clean them up before we try and slide the box back in. We want it to go in nice and easy, nice and free. But yeah, everything looks fine. So here we are, here's the old flywheel with plenty of heat spots. Like I was saying, I couldn't even get a launch with the car with this particular clutch on. And you can see I've definitely got my money's worth out of that clutch. There's what used to be rivets, now nice and shiny, which is what's led to the nice groove in the pressure plate. I'm glad I've bought a lighter flywheel anyway. That's the main thing, because I think it needed it. I don't know if this surface does seem to be flat. There's certainly no like grooves. I think it's just all heat spots. But this nevertheless is half the weight of the old flywheel. The new one's half the weight, so we've just weighed it in pounds What were it again, Dad? 17 and a quarter compared to
9 and a quarter.
We're 9 and 3/4.
Oh, 9 and 3/4.
It was 9 and 3/4 pounds. The new Flywheel. So I'll work that out in metric and I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. But as you can see, this is the new clutch, the new pressure plate. All ZA. They used to say DK on them, didn't they? ZA, because they rebranded. Anyway, lightweight Flywheel, should be a little bit more responsive, as well as replacing these completely shagged torque mounts with the polyurethane ones, putting some detent springs in the box as well, and yeah, it should all come together for a nice engaging sort of gear change and better feel, a bit more peppy with the lighter Flywheel and a bit more responsive with the lighter Flywheel and the stiffer torque mounts. But yeah, absolutely shagged. So on to a fun bit. We've got the box off here, and as you can tell, we're going to do the detent springs. Now, this is the diagram that I've got, both from the bottom of the box. I've put the box on this like wooden cradle as well, just to stop it from hitting the dowels and sort of mushrooming them, or you know, causing a bit of a problem when we're sliding the box back in. Sorry about that, there's an old boy's plane flying over. But yeah, here we are. So these are for the B, H and F series. They're from Speed Factory, and I got these with the clutch from Tegiwa. So shout out to Tegiwa, please sponsor me. I use a lot of stuff from you. But yeah, so these are the detent springs. I'm gonna give these a little clean just so that no crap sort of gets into the box when I'm removing these two bolts. Pull the bolt, the spring and the ball bearing out, or try and keep the ball bearing inside, because these springs just butt up against the ball bearing that sort of notches into the selector forks as you're changing gears. So yeah, that's the plan. So that's both of the detent springs in from Speed Factory. The springs, in comparison to the standard ones, they were less coils, a lot thicker of a coil as well, and these are quite easy to sort of press with your fingers, whereas the Speed Factory ones, they were really stiff, to be honest. They do state on the website that it's an 80% increase in spring rate, but yeah, really interesting. I'm interested to find out how notchy the box is now, see if it feels a lot more positive to engage gears. So I've just taken off the release bearing. There's the old crusty one, not really important. Just cleaned up the arm, that's the new release bearing, and I'm going to be using the supplied grease to lubricate up the pivot ball, turret, and also the arm and all the contact points. So yeah, that's what I'm cracking on with now. So my dad's just googled torque specs for me with this strange piece of paper. It says this is his Google, and it says that the torque spec for the Flywheel plate's 105 Newton meters. Is that about right, Dad?
Correct. That is Google.
This is Google. a clutch alignment tool to make sure that the clutch friction plate is in line with the pressure plate. What you do is you make sure it's got an equal distance all the way around the friction plate so that it's not out of line. You know, you don't want it over one side more than the other, because it will throw it off balance and it won't have the correct friction when it's in use. It'll just feel like crap basically. Flip it around, Dad.
You won't be able to get your gearbox on.
No, you won't. And this needs to be locked into place so that it aligns the splines centrally with the pressure plate itself, so that the splines of the box from the input shaft go straight into the clutch friction plate. So that's it all lined up and it's not protruding at this side, so it'll go on nice and easy onto our light and flywheel that you've just seen us torque up and mount. I've also dropped the gear linkage out because I've got, as I've mentioned before, some polyurethane bushes to aid the selection of the gears and make it feel a bit tighter and not as much slop in the box, so it should be a lot nicer. So I'm going to replace all these and fit the cheap short shifter that I bought. So the bushes I got for free basically because they came with a polyurethane bushing kit that I got for the EG Civic, but as I went with a H swap I didn't use any gear linkage. It's a cable gear selection on the H series, so they are free basically, free to me. And then I've got the short shifter here, which is really simple in design. It's from I think it's from AliExpress or eBay, something like that, and it was literally like £7, and it's just going to give me a shorter throw in comparison to the stock unit. So this is the old gear linkage bushes and selector. The new one's in. As you can tell, it's on a bit of a dodgy angle at the moment because it's not actually connected to anything. My dad's just got the box aligned. He started to put the bell housing bolts in. The motorbike jack coming in handy, being used as a gearbox jack. And you can see that there is the gear linkage attached with the poly bushes in and the short shifter attached. So making progress, just hope it doesn't start raining.
Day 2.
So it is now the next day, and as you can see there's no silver car on the driveway because a few things went wrong last night. Not wrong, but just took way too much time, and we need to fix a gear selector issue where neutral at the moment is so wide it goes past the sort of gate, if you like, for first and second and past the gate for fifth. It's just really strange, and the one thing that we've done differently is we've tried switching out the bitch pin for a screw, like an 8mm screw, so hopefully we can fix that problem, but time will tell. The sun's really weird today, but yeah, that's the biggest issue that we've got, fingers crossed. Oh, and my chariot waits. So this is where we left off. The lower ball joints just sort of sat in place, but the boots do need replacing because we had to really knock the crap out of them basically to get them out. So we need to replace the boots and the lower ball joints. My dad's got a load of rubber boots in the garage anyway. The fluid's in, the gear linkage is on. As I said, we've got that problem with the gear linkage. Everything under here, apart from the air intake, it's pretty much on. You know, starter motor, all that sort of stuff. Clutch slave cylinder, sorry, and the lines leading to and from everything. You know, all the power cables and stuff for the starter motor, etc, etc. Everything's on apart from the intake, basically. So this side as well, the drive shaft's not in, but the intermediate shaft is attached to the back of the block, just in there. So the drive shaft's not in yet, but the same issue is applicable to the ball joint. We need to replace the boot, and this is the issue with the gear selector. So it sort of wants to, do you know what, why is it? I don't know, it just feels like crap. It's got a lot more, that's in gear and it's going all over the shop. If you pull it out of gear, it just wants to go wherever it wants. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm gonna put the gear knob back on. But yeah, it's sloppy. It's just really sloppy. So anyway, I'm gonna crack on. I'll give you guys an update once we're done. So a couple of notable discoveries since removing the shifter linkage is that, one, the new short shifter that I've bought, the bearing, the pivot ball, whatever you want to call it, is actually 0.4mm smaller in diameter. I've just measured it with my digital caliper. But yeah, it's 0.4 mil smaller, so that did have a very small amount of play. However, it doesn't sort of stop there. The only difference as well, by the way, is the pivot point from the ball itself. The short shifter is slightly shorter, and the pivot point, or the amount of leverage, shall we say, from the pivot point is obviously a lot longer. So that's the only difference, really. And I mean, this is steel, so I could probably just weld a bit onto it, and voila. Anyway, the other thing that we noticed was that the bolt that we were using for the selector, so that's where the pin goes through, we used a bolt instead, and the bolt had loads of play within there, so that was definitely causing a selector issue, or a very numb and very strange selector feel, as I showed you earlier. So that's what we're on with right now. We're going to put the pin back in, despite it being a bitch, and I'm gonna probably put the standard shifter back in. I'm not 100% certain yet. I might see what I can do to pack it out with grease, because there wasn't much play on it. Anyway,
2,000 years later.
so you join me now, back in the car. It's back on the road. I'm back home in the car. It's off of my dad's drive, and I could not be happier with the end result. It did take some time, because it wasn't just a simple, clutch replacement. As you saw, we've replaced, to recap, we've replaced the flywheel with a lightweight flywheel. We've replaced the torque mounts with some solid polyurethane options. Very, very cheap, those particular mounts. I got the flywheel for dirt cheap as well a long time ago now, because I knew it needed a clutch when I bought the car, and that came up cheap on eBay. I think I paid £100 for the flywheel, £20 or £25 or something like that for the torque mounts. The poly bushes that I put on the gear linkage, they were free because I had them from the EG build that I did previously. Didn't use that because I used the cable shifters for the H22 swap. Also, I fitted the short shifter. I think that was like a £7, £9 short shifter. It did have its little quirk, as I mentioned previously, but with a lot of grease and with those, stiffer bushings and stuff like that, it's worked out really, really well. And the detent springs. Now, the detent springs that we fitted were £20, £22, something like that, from Tegiwa, and they have made the world of difference, along with the torque mounts and the lightweight flywheel. To put it in perspective, there's such a notch now on the gear stick when putting it into gear. Just to give you a quick example, listen to this. And that throw as well, as you can see, so short between third, neutral and fourth. You're talking less than 2-inch throw, so really, really nice. And it's nice and sort of notchy as well, going from left to right, into each gate. It's just so much better. And so it's a lot stiffer, it's a lot shorter of a throw, it's a lot notchier. Also, when rev matching the car, and giving it a quick blip on the throttle, the gear changes are so much easier, and the revs just come up in the rev range so much quicker when comparing it to a standard weight flywheel. So it's honestly so much better, and the torque mounts as well just make the engagement of the drivetrain, through feathering the clutch, if you like, just make it more instant. There's not that sort of, it's like a lag almost, where it takes up the slack within the engine mounts. It's not as gone as what it was in the EG when I did the H22 swap, because I did every engine mount polybushed, but it's definitely a hell of a lot better. It made so much more of an improvement than what I thought it would by just replacing those torque mounts. So really, really good. Overall, the driving experience is so much better. Obviously people replace the shifter with a short shifter, and that reduces the throw. They do the detent springs, they do all these things sort of individually, and I can honestly say that all of it together just sort of creates a much better engagement with the car and changing the gears. It just makes it a much better experience from a driver's perspective. Is it more comfortable? No. The torque mounts create a bit of vibration. The notchiness of the gearbox might not be something that you want, but overall I'm really happy with it. It's definitely a driver mod. It's not something that you'd want to do to something that you want a nice luxurious drive in, because the throttle response is so much better now at tick over or rev matching, like I say, and it's just really good. It's just really, really good all round mod to the gear changing. So yeah, really good. 10 out of 10, would recommend to a friend. This is going to wrap up today's video. I will give a quick shout out though to David Sneed and to who else is it that was? I think it was Robster VTech, sorry. David Sneed and Robster VTech have both been hitting me up as per usual on the messages, so shout out to you two gents. Thank you very much for commenting and watching. And yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. If you liked it, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. It does help with the algorithm. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, if this is the sort of build that you'd be interested in, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.
Makes the night